Hello and welcome to the Purple Cow. My name is Ramon, and I am very happy to take any questions you might have for the ZACP, of course. Let me just move to the questions. So for those who might be unaware, we are still less than a month old, and we've actually been really, really pleased with the traction we are getting. For those who don't know, Canton was in the Financial Mail today. I will post the link in the comment section in the chat. You can go look at it. And yes, our Telegram group is growing really large. We've got a lot more Facebook support. We've got a lot more people in the group on Facebook as well. And it seems like a lot of people are quite excited about what we want to do. And yeah, we're very happy to see the kind of traction we are getting. So, first question. Have you received any death threats from commies who are convinced their murderous ideology is right? No, no death threats as far as I'm aware. I have received a lot of guilt by association tweets. So I go on many live streams with self-described fascists, self-described communists, self-described alt-rightists, because I do that because I believe in freedom of speech and I believe in changing people's mind. And basically, I will talk to anyone who wants to learn about my opinions. So I go onto a lot of different platforms, and apparently that's bad to some people on Twitter. So yeah, they can try smear me and accuse me of being all sorts of things. But yeah, I've been the same libertarian anarchist for as long as I can remember, and I've been very consistent in that. But no death threats as yet, as far as I'm aware. I know Canton skirted quite close to that when he called Winnie Mandela a cougar like last week, I believe. But yeah, nothing much came up of that. So Etienne, what are the rights restrictions to putting up ZACP posters? So we are busy with those at the moment. We're going to put them up on different highways and very busy intersections. So the restrictions are you sort of do need permission, and yeah, but we'll sort that out. So how do you tend to appeal to the majority of people in this country that have been fed anti-capitalist lies and vote purely on tribalistic lines? I don't know if people do vote purely on tribalistic lines. I think the ANC is or was a great hope for many people. I mean, they spoke for the masses, and people saw results under an ANC government. If you look at the housing, you look at service delivery, generally, the ANC hasn't been that bad, but they've become far worse the past 10 years, of course. But it's understandable why people would vote for the ANC. And now I'm not too sure why they would. But I don't think many people are as anti-capitalist as they believe. They are just capitalists under a different guise. And it's just important to let them know that they are capitalists. They do charge for services, or they buy things that they like, or they provide goods and services to others in return for money. That's the essence of free trade and capitalism. So it's quite easy to show them that. So the Dhaka Capital says, no questions, just a thank you for putting drug policy reform in your manifesto. Cannabis legalization will lift the fortunes of SA without a doubt. Yes, absolutely. It's a weird thing. So cannabis is actually sort of a cash crop. It's very easy to build, very easy to grow, especially in the Eastern Cape. It's some of the most fertile soil in the world, and the rest of the world wants it. It's being legalized everywhere. We can turn it into a massive export market for cannabis, and we can grow it right here in South Africa. So that is a great economic opportunity for South Africa generally. What is the hard boundary of free speech from the ZACP perspective? We don't have one. We are free speech absolutists. So we don't see a boundary for free speech. Personally speaking, I think the the constitutional restriction on hate speech is sort of reasonable. If there's an imminent threat or advocacy for violence based on certain grounds, that seems fairly reasonable to me. But as a party, we don't think hate speech should be a crime. And the reason for that is, how do we know who our enemies are if they're not allowed to speak? How do we know how people really feel if they're not allowed to speak? So to me, it's far better to have someone who really hates a group or a race being able to express that, so that A, I don't associate with them, B, I don't buy from their businesses or support them financially, and C, I know exactly who the enemies are. That is the reason why we are big supporters of free speech and don't think hate speech should be a thing in South Africa. Right, just having a few more questions coming in. So you must apologize. I must apologize. My voice, I've got a little bit of a cold, so I do sound like I'm 85, which is, yeah, unfortunate at this rate. So people are asking how they can help. The best thing to do for the moment is just to tell people that we exist and to show them our principles. So the more our principles are spread, the more people buy into what we're trying to do. And if you've got a little bit of money to spare, send it our way. We're using that money to pay people to campaign for us, to put up our posters. And we're hoping to get a few radio ads later on, just before the election. And that all requires money. So if you've got a little bit to spare, please support us financially. If you don't want to do that, just support us by, referring us to people who might not know about us at all. So a question, does teaching female teenagers responsible gun control not put the focus on the victims instead of the problem? Well, the problem is violent men, mostly. Men commit the most violent crime. Okay, how do you deal with violent men? Do you want to, I don't know, take them to camps to make them less violent? Do you want to, how do you deal with criminals? You ensure that you have a justice system and a police force that works, which we don't have at the moment, or you get victims to be empowered and protect themselves. So it's akin to saying to antelopes, right? So the cheetah or the leopard is coming, the predator is coming. The best way to deal with them is to take away your horns. That doesn't work. Here we're focusing on a particular issue of female crime victims. And if female crime victims, excuse me, are empowered to protect themselves and understand how to use the tools at their disposal to protect themselves, you're solving a real issue. We're not going to teach criminals not to be criminals. We can teach people how to ensure that they don't become victims of criminality. Another question about free speech must be absolute. Yeah, we agree completely. But yes, our gun policy has been sort of, put people off us. And it's a little bit strange because all we want is competent gun ownership to be available and for people to empower themselves to own guns, especially in a country like ours with very high crime rates and a police force that doesn't actually work. So what people do is that they hire people who have guns to protect them, or they get an illegal weapon to protect themselves. Why not make the illegal gun owners legal through legal mechanisms, make them legally competent to own the gun that they already have, and then we can know who has guns when and where. Let them register it with the online database that we want to set up. So we know exactly if the gun is used in a crime, we can link it to the owner. It's a win-win for everyone, really. We're not asking for AR-15s to be sold at Pick and Pay. For some reason, as soon as you say guns, people think that we want the Second Amendment of America. No, we don't want that at all. We just want to make sure that people are able to protect themselves and that are properly trained before they get a gun at their disposal. Excuse me. What do you think about the Disrupted Land documentary? I actually attended the premiere of that. I was invited. I think It was fairly accurate. I contrasted with books I've read about the same sort of issue, and it seems to be quite true in essence. I did tell AfriForum that the part about the Hendrik Verwoerd being a philosopher will get them into trouble. And it's not wrong, but it's sort of like saying Adolf Hitler was an artist or Joseph Stalin was a priest. It's true, but it's an omission that is almost unfair, essentially. With anything to do with state policy, you always look at the outcome rather than the intention. So the intention of a vote is actually irrespective. The outcome was terrible, and that's how you should judge every single government policy. So it's a real lesson in acknowledging that the best ideas don't work out, and every single government policy should be judged on that front. Look at the consequences, not at the intention. And then it's a lot easier to judge history. It's a lot easier to judge a lot of stuff that we don't like. How does the ZACP intend to cut through the red tape associated with doing business? Well, we are big opponents of labor laws, unions, and the minimum wage. They should all be abolished. The minimum wage, that is. Labor laws need to be really deregulated completely. I actually wrote an article that should come out soon. Labor, if you're a worker in South Africa, you're part of sort of a labor aristocracy. We have a state and legal policies that really protects you from people who don't have a job. So there are 10, 12, 15 million people without jobs because they don't form part of that labor aristocracy. So the thing is, you actually want South Africa to be a low wage labor market to compete internationally with Vietnam, India, Ethiopia. They are a lot more productive at much lower wages. We are relatively unproductive at very high wages. So labor costs are actually a big issue for investment and local business, of course. So unfortunately, we have to make labor cheaper to be globally effective. And by making labor cheaper, more people will actually work because there's more investment, more wealth to spread around. So yeah, we against the labor aristocracy aspect that has risen up in South Africa. And you need to change the Labor Relations Act, abolish the minimum wage, and really take the teeth out of the unions to get anywhere. Do you support legalization of dacha? Absolutely. We think South Africa could be a great hub for marijuana growing and the exporting of marijuana all over the world. So yes, we do. We don't have any sort of moral policies. We don't care what people do or think, as long as they don't hurt someone else in a physical sense. So drugs, for example, should be legalized. Patients, rather, addicts should be treated as patients, as sick people, rather than as criminals. And there's lots of evidence around the world, the Czech Republic, Portugal, the Netherlands. This works. So yes, we do fully favor the legalization of marijuana. So I need to expand on group rights versus individual rights and when should group rights take precedent. So we only care about individual rights because groups don't exist in a legal sense. Once you have individual rights and individuals are empowered by rights to be themselves, they naturally organize themselves into various groups. And that's the way we like it. We don't want to have any legal recognition of certain groups over other groups. So for us, individual first at all costs, let the individual then organize themselves into various groups. And they could be gay rights groups, parent groups, community groups, ethnic groups, whatever groups they want. But as long as the individual is empowered, they will join whichever group or create any group that they want to. How long, considering the implementation of the negative tax incentive, will social grants fall away? Timothy, that's a difficult question to answer because we need sustained economic growth, more people working, and we need to wean people off social grants. It could take years. Um, I'm not gonna lie, it can take quite a few years, but as long as people are working and not living on social grants, and the social, the what do you call it? The amount of people on social grants diminish over time, we'll know we're on the right track. How do you think you're going to topple the labor unions without massive industrial strike? These people have the economy by the scrotum. I do agree with that. Well, Margaret Thatcher did it. It's been done all around the world. And I mean, remember, unions represent 600,000, 700 people, 700,000 people, all of them together. Their memberships have declined by a long way. So they don't actually represent as many people as we think. So if you amend legislation to remove some of their power, yes, they may as well be violent. That's true. And we need to counter that and be ready for that risk. But it'll certainly be worth it once they're a bit less powerful for everyone. For the millions of people who don't have jobs, unions are a big obstruction to them getting a job. Excuse me. So, will all ZACP members stay on even if 10 seats are not obtained? I understand all members are not career politicians, so how will time be managed if the incentive of a seat is no longer there? It depends. So I think those who have seats will obviously go to Parliament, and those who don't, I mean, we give them a free choice. They can stay with us. They can still carry on doing their private business and working within the party to try get seats in the next election. We're not, you know, we don't have contracts that bind people in a certain manner or in a certain time period. So it's individual choice. It'll be their choice to stay with us or to go back to what they were doing before. All right, just waiting for more questions. If you crush organized labor, can we call you guys Mrs. Thatcher? Well, I don't think we're as good as Mrs. Thatcher quite yet, but it's a nice title. How are we going to convince poor people in the townships that the government is not your parent and that we can't demand free stuff? This mentality is very pervasive in South Africa. Well, I mean, it's not a surprise it's pervasive because it's been echoed and promulgated by governments for decades, first by the Nats and now by the ANC. So if people are expecting something from the state, they become entitled to that. And that makes complete sense. You just have to wean people, change their ideas in front of them, debate with them, show them examples of where that sort of mentality hasn't worked before. There's no real answer to that. It's just about changing the incentive structures at the end of the day. What do you think of money in politics, business, sponsors, etc.? Well, people should be able to fund whoever they want in politics. There was a case in America. It's called Citizens United. And the court argued in the judgment that lobbying and paying political parties is a form of free speech, and it is acceptable as a form of speech. That was an interesting argument and an interesting judgment. I'm not sure if I agree altogether with it, but I think, yeah, people should be able to fund political parties. That's maybe more transparently than it is at the moment, but I don't see a problem with that. Do you have a plan in place for the takeover should you win? No, we're not going to win this election. We have no intentions of winning this election at all. Where would you start to build RSA? Definitely by shutting down many of the SOEs. They are one of the biggest leeches on the state's budget. So we'll certainly sell those off or privatize them or close them down. We will obviously cut down the amount of civil servants we require because we don't actually need as many as we have at the moment. And then if you really just change the labor laws, this country will change overnight. You can have millions of more people flooding in and a lot more investment as well. If you change the labor laws in BEE, investment strike is over and people will come back and just create. All you have to do is create a environment of certainty, business certainty, and business-friendly policies. People will naturally come and put their money in South Africa, and that'll be good for everyone. If you win no seats, what is the plan from there? We don't intend on winning no seats. We haven't thought about that at all. So we'll see, Quentin. If we win no seats, we'll probably continue. Let's see. Any ZACP plans to tighten the porous borders? Not at the moment. So we want to simplify the visa process for skilled immigrants. So what has happened is a massive brain drain that has happened, whereby millions of people have left this country, qualified, competent business people, but they haven't been replaced at all. So we need immigrants to replace them. And for now, the visa process is very difficult, arduous, and onerous. And that's really unacceptable. So we need to make it far easier for skilled people to come in and provide value to the rest of South Africa. So as for the borders, it's difficult. With the welfare state and porous borders, it leads to all sorts of consequences that we don't really want. It's a much deeper issue than just hard borders or soft borders. It's about the welfare state. It's about all sorts of other things as well. It could also be a question of just making legal immigrants a bit easier. Okay, how can we help? Dale, very simple. Make sure people know about us. And if you want, you can donate to us as well, capitalist.org.za/donate. All our details are on our website. But as long as people know about the Purple Cow and about our principles, it's easy. You just let people know that we exist. That helps us immensely. So, Malema has argued that there was a deliberate attempt by the apartheid government to enrich white people at the expense of others. So today we need a deliberate attempt to enrich black people. Thoughts? Well, I mean, that's what BEE was, or is currently. It's about enriching black people. The problem is it's enriching certain black people, i.e. certain black people who are politically connected, and certain black people who are politically connected who are able to somehow come from the ANC. The BEE is actually sort of state capture to the corporate society. So you can take over the state as the ANC, but to take over the corporate, you put BEE in place and make them hire you because you're black or connected or something like that. So that has been the case. We believe in ensuring that everyone gets rich, irrespective of race. If you're South African and you want to get rich, we support that entirely. We don't have these little neat groups about who we represent or don't represent. Gary says, you don't look like a professional party. That's a great compliment, because we're not a professional party. We are a disruptive party. We care about principles. We don't care about t-shirts and things like that, and wearing a suit for a live stream. We're not that sort of party. We're a disruptive party, Gary. We don't want to look professional. We want to look competent, which we do. It's like saying Steve Jobs looks like a very unprofessional CEO. Who cares? The guy's making billions of dollars in revenue. Who cares what he looked like? And that's what we are going to do as well. Not make billions of dollars in revenue, but make proper political change. In t-shirts if necessary. And no, not shorts though. I don't wear shorts because I'm not 12. Right, I've got about 5 minutes left. and we'll answer a few more questions for whoever does have them. So let me just type in over here. Our website is there, and if you go to capitalist.org.za/donate, you can pop us a few rands if you want to. We use that money to hire people to campaign for us and to hold the signs on the side of the road as well. So this is interesting. Why don't you guys start selling T-shirts and hats? Because we're not T-shirt and hat sellers. So our our logo is open source. If you go to our Telegram group, which is on our website, or you can get the link to it on our website, all our artwork is laid out there in a Dropbox folder, and we let people do whatever they want with it. So people have taken the initiative to create caps, create posters, create vinyls, create T-shirts, and they're selling it on their own accord. So yeah, go look on our Telegram group. That's where you'll find a lot of merchandise that other people are doing with our brand and our logo. Do you have a plan to make your messaging appealing to the poor? It's about the principles. Being poor doesn't make you unprincipled or less principled. If you like our principles, you like our principles. But here's the thing: we can't appeal to everyone. We don't want to appeal to everyone. We want to appeal to people that like our principles. So, I mean, we have lots of questions. Oh, what about that, one farming community in the Karoo near Richmond? Is it worth our while to go there? No, it's better to talk to people who are in urban areas, because they're the ones that make political decisions. Not, with respect, not some farmers in Richmond. So we are targeting people who like our principles. We're not targeting everyone at the moment. How can expats vote? I think that has been closed. I think you had one last chance in February, I believe, to register to vote as an expat, but I think that's no longer the option. I think that has closed. Any thoughts on the Cape seceding from South Africa? I don't think it'll happen soon. The creation of a Volksstad. So section principle 10 is spontaneity and civil order. So what that means is people coalescing around ideas or values that they want and solving problems together as a group. So Volksstad is that, but so is the Zulu kingdom, right? So our chiefs and kings all over the country. So if people can voluntarily do that without harming others, yeah, power to them. We don't care who does it at the moment. All right. Last two questions before I have to go blow my nose. Gary, I'd rather fight one horse-sized duck. Thank you very much. Especially as we are gun rights activists, so easy to take down a horse-sized duck. All right, it seems like the questions have stopped coming, so I am going to end the live stream now. Thank you for coming on and joining me. It's been really fun. Okay, one last one. How do you think we should balance protecting the environment and growing the economy? Well, it's very simple. Rich people care more about the economy. I mean, rich people care more about the environment than poorer people. Once people are able to own land, once they are able to own things, they take care of it to a large degree. In South Africa, on the global scale, we are a rounding error in terms of pollution, in terms of emissions, in terms of things like that. Actually, the government pollutes far more than anyone else, thanks to the Eskom power stations in the northwest, I believe, or in Mpumalanga. I can't remember. So if those things were privatized, you could actually sue them for damaging the environment. But now, because it's part of the state, we can't really do anything. The state is the biggest polluter of the environment. And once you privatize and you make sure that people own assets and land, they take care of it a lot more than the state. So privatize things, the environment actually gets saved as well. But anyway, let me be off. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And yeah, see you next time. Cheers.